Even the name captivates the imagination. Zion has enchanted, mystified, and sustained people since ancient times. Its mountain peaks command epic names. Its towering sandstone cliffs are some of the tallest in the world. Much of Zion is a dry mosaic of rock, canyons, and plateaus. Yet for millions of years, water has been a powerful force here, carving and nourishing the otherwise semi-arid landscape into a place unlike any other on Earth. Even today, water and other natural forces are sculpting the brilliantly colored sandstone, forever changing the face of Zion. Zion is a living masterpiece, a land of striking contrasts and constant change. A challenge for the body, and a sanctuary for the spirit. A place of natural wonders, abundant life, and inexplicable beauty. This is the continuing story of Zion National Park. Like the ancient peoples who came before us, we have stood in awe of this incredible landscape and wondered. How was the canyon formed? Why glorious waterfalls appear only to vanish in the blink of an eye? What causes the rocks to take on their curious forms? From Kolob Arch in the northwest to Checkerboard Mesa in the east and Zion Canyon to the south, the park's natural wonders may seem to defy explanation. Yet the secrets of Zion are whispered each day in the waters of the Virgin River, and in the ribbons of color found in Zion's distinctive rock. The story begins long before the age of the dinosaurs, on a vast expanse of land now known as the Colorado Plateau. Today, the plateau is the geologic foundation for parts of Colorado, Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico. And it's home to some of the most spectacular canyons in the world. Yet throughout most of the Earth's history, this land was relatively low and flat. Then, about 600 million years ago, sediments that would remain until today began to accumulate. These sediments in the form of sand, mud, and gravel were layered one on top of the other. Minerals seeped into the deposits and cemented the sediments together as pressure from upper layers pressed the cemented sediments into rock. Zion's most striking rock formation, the Navajo sandstone, was created this way 180 million years ago when the land was covered by a vast desert. Prehistoric winds whipped the desert sands into massive dunes. Over millions of years, the dunes hardened into a gigantic layer of sandstone, 3,000 feet thick in some places. creation of Zion's colorful rock is only half the story. The next dramatic chapter was written only in the last 5 to 10 million years, when Zion's incredible topography was born. Tremendous forces within the earth lifted the sandstone and the other layers of rock upward to elevations of 10,000 feet. The profound change in elevation gave birth to a prehistoric stream now known as the Virgin River. The river carved an ever-deepening chasm in the layers of sedimentary rock as gravity pulled the water down towards sea level. As remarkable as it may seem, over the next few million years, the Virgin River cut the steep walls of Zion Canyon. This powerful erosive force is still at work today. And in recent geologic time, active volcanoes have dramatically altered the landscape along the park's western boundary. Zion's spectacular mix of climate, topography, and elevation has created a variety of natural communities as surprising and diverse as the landscape itself. From the Virgin River on the canyon floor, to the barren slick rock and the forested upper plateaus, Zion sustains more than 800 native plants, 75 species of mammals, 36 species of reptiles, and more than 270 varieties of birds. At the park's lowest elevations, the summer climate is at its most extreme. Rainfall amounts to less than 12 inches each year, and temperatures can reach 110 degrees or more. Yet near the Virgin River on the canyon floor, woodlands thrive within a stone's throw of cactus and yucca. Mule deer and wild turkey find sanctuary in forests of cottonwood, velvet ash, and box elder. The emerald pools, tinted green by algae, provide an oasis for a variety of plants and animals, while small swamps form in the coolest, wettest corners of the canyon. And leafy ferns and colorful columbine seem to defy the semi-arid climate by sprouting in seeps at the base of the Navajo sandstone. These remarkable hanging gardens are nourished by water held deep within the porous rock. Seeps in the Virgin River Narrows provide a haven for the Zion snail, a tiny creature about the size of a pinhead that is found no place else on Earth. Moving up and away from the river, the riparian woodland gives way to a drier forest of pinyon pine, juniper, and desert shrub. But even within this desert-like environment, life is abundant. Reptiles like the common king snake and the collared lizard survive in this sun-baked land. And wildflowers bloom at various elevations throughout the spring and summer. High above the shrubland on Zion's plateaus, more moisture is available and temperatures are cooler. Utah juniper, sagebrush, and ponderosa pine take root on the lower plateaus, while white fir, ponderosa pine, and quaking aspen dominate the highest reaches of the park. Steller's jays, elk, red squirrel, and chipmunks thrive in the higher elevation forests. In other locations, peregrine falcons nest on the sheer cliffs. and desert bighorn sheep roam the rocky terrain on the east side of the park. And while mountain lions are rarely seen in Zion, these secretive predators prowl throughout the park. Man, too, has been able to survive in Zion, thanks to the life-sustaining power of the Virgin River. Archaeologists believe people have been living here for as many as 10,000 years. About 2,000 years ago, the ancestral Puebloans, known to archaeologists as the Virgin Anasazi, settled on river terraces. They irrigated the floodplains to grow corn, squash, and beans. At the same time, another cultural group known as the Fremont people occupied the northern sections of the park, including the Kolob Canyons. The ancestral Puebloans prospered in Zion for roughly 1,300 years, developing over time into expert farmers, potters, and basket makers. Then, around 800 years ago, they migrated to other areas of the Southwest due to environmental and social changes. Their culture survives even today. Several modern-day Puebloan tribes claim ties to the ancestral Puebloans. Another cultural group known as the Southern Paiute also occupied Zion. Like earlier Indian peoples, the Southern Paiute farmed along the streams. Moving with the seasons, they hunted mule deer and other game in the desert and woodlands of Zion. Zion is still important to the Southern Paiute people today as part of their traditional homeland.
A wall there, we got a song in it. Got to sing a songs, traditional songs. The song comes from murmur of the wind and murmur of the trees and birds.
A Southern Paiute guided the first Euro-American explorer to the mouth of Zion Canyon in 1858. Nephi Johnson was a Mormon scout who explored the canyon as far north as the Great White Throne, possibly continuing all the way to the Narrows. Based on Johnson's findings, Mormons became the first people of European descent to settle in Zion. J.L. Crawford grew up in Zion Canyon. His grandfather was among the early Mormon farmers.
I've heard a lot of people say, well, these pioneers, the settlers, just came in here and all they could see is farming, utilizing the resources, and they didn't see any beauty there. Well, I'm sure that people appreciated and saw the beauty of it because they named most of these mountains.
It was Mormon farmer Isaac Behunin who gave the canyon and eventually the park its distinctive name. Like so many other Mormons, Behunin came to Utah to escape religious persecution.
These are the temples of God. One can worship here as well as in any man-made temple.
Feeling safe within the steep canyon walls, Behunin named it Zion, a biblical reference to a place of quiet sanctuary. In the coming decades, other inspirational names were bestowed upon Zion's most spectacular landmarks. Angel's Landing, Cathedral Mountain, the three patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the altar of sacrifice, and the great white throne. early 1900s, Zion was a fledgling tourist destination. But its most spectacular sights were still inaccessible to all but the most determined travelers. The journey into Zion had to be made on foot or on horseback. But in 1909, President William Howard Taft signed the proclamation making Zion Canyon and more than 15,000 surrounding acres a national monument. As a national monument, Zion was known as Mukuntuweap, which was thought to be a southern Paiute name for the canyon. And in 1919, the monument became Zion National Park. National Park status also brought other changes to Zion. The Union Pacific Railroad completed a spur line to nearby Cedar City in 1923. In 1925, the original Zion Lodge opened in Zion Canyon to accommodate the growing number of park visitors. Soon after the lodge opened, a man-made model was engineered to rival the park's natural wonders. The Zion Mount Carmel Highway is a 13-mile stretch of winding road and switchbacks connecting the south and east entrances of the park. To complete the road, crews had to blast a tunnel through a mountain of sandstone, a seemingly impossible task when work began in 1927. But not only was the tunnel built, 6 massive galleries were cut into its thick sandstone walls. At just over a mile in length, the Zion Mount Carmel Tunnel was the longest tunnel in the country when it opened on July 4th, 1930. Today, the Zion Mount Carmel Highway provides access to the scenic wonders of Zion's east side. Approaching the tunnel from the west, the Great Arch of Zion comes into view. Beyond the tunnel to the east, the landscape changes dramatically from vermilion cliffs to wind-swept plateaus. This surreal landscape of cross-bedded sandstone and curiously sculpted hoodoos is known as Slick Rock. But it is Checkerboard Mesa that is the most famous landmark on the park's eastern side. The mesa takes its name from its distinctive checkerboard pattern, which has been etched and eroded into the Navajo sandstone. A dramatically different landscape unfolds in the distinctive finger canyons of the Kolob in the northwestern corner of Zion. Kolob Canyons is a lesser-known but stunningly beautiful part of Zion National Park. A short detour off Interstate 15 leads to a wilderness of rugged canyons and bright red cliffs unlike any of the others in Zion. Many of Zion's spectacular sights are more accessible than ever. During the peak season, a convenient shuttle system provides easy access to 8 stops and many trailheads within Zion Canyon. The stops along the shuttle route lead to some of the park's most famous landmarks. The Court of the Patriarchs, the Emerald Pools, Weeping Rock, and the Narrows. The Paulus Trail and the Riverside Walk are easy hikes that accommodate strollers and wheelchairs. Others, like the journey to the top of Angel's Landing, are challenging climbs. Part of Zion Canyon can be explored on horseback, just as the park's early visitors saw it nearly a century ago. In season, trail rides start near the Zion Lodge. The existing lodge with its dining room, gift shop, and overnight accommodations continues to host Zion's visitors. A A visit to Zion is an opportunity to experience nature on its own terms, to safely enjoy the park. Be aware of steep cliffs and flash floods, and prepare for dehydrating heat and bright sun. But with the proper precautions, it's easy to discover the history, the natural beauty, and the sense of sanctuary held within these great stone walls. Zion National Park is a wonderland of discovery that stretches well beyond the horizons of the imagination. It's a showcase of human history and geologic time, set against some of the most breathtaking scenery on earth. Zion is both an incredible masterpiece and a work in progress. Each day brings new dimension and character to this dynamic and ever-changing landscape. Welcome to the next chapter in Zion's never-ending story. Welcome to Zion National Park.